just thinking about the physical aspects in terms of physical safety of self-harm, it's really important that we kind of, at the time, if a young person's spoken about self-harm, that we think about assessing whether the wound needs cleaning or just inquiring with them about that and how severe the wounds are. Most young people that self-harm intentionally don't need to go to A&E. This can add to further stress, distress and trauma. In terms of medical treatment and seeking hospital or medical advice, it's important to know that all incidences of self-poisoning, so overdosing, whether it be, tablets, medication, cleaning products, it needs to be reported within the 48 hours. Because they'll require immediate treatment via A&E or assessment via A&E. But just to be vigilant about the physical parts of the wounds that may be caused, we need to be, as parents and carers, we need to be vigilant following this and just check for any signs of infection. They might have short t-shirts on, you might see or observe some of this, so just inquire about that. It's really important. And also it's really important to know if they are communicating that they're actively suicidal, that is having current plans to take their own life, or have spoken about plans to do this, and you feel unable to keep them safe, then it's important that you take them, that they get taken to A&E for further assessment. You can also call CAMHS duty line, which we'll give at the end, with the crisis line as well. So we'll give that at the end. So thinking about self-harm, it is a really emotive subject, and it's easier said than done, but we need to try our best to ignore the feelings of guilt about, as a parent or carer, and think about yourselves, and what support you're getting as well, in terms of whether that's your network support, family, friends, taking time out as well. As it says here, when parenting, apply your own oxygen mask first, which is often what they say, don't they, when you're going on a plane. And there's also a link here, charliewaller.org, which is really useful to go on to look at support for family members, friends, family members, parents, carers, etc.
So now coming on to the strategies, thinking about back to that stress bucket and trying to reduce the stress flowing into that bucket. So it's important to think about what might be causing that distress in the first place. And that's what we aim for in our approach as a mental health support team, is striving for a bit of a holistic approach in terms of thinking about who's going to be helpful in maybe supporting the child. Is it thinking about bringing in trusted people at school? Is it about bringing in other family members? Thinking about who else can help in this situation to reduce the stress. It doesn't always have to just fall on us as parents. So thinking about how we can help your child to kind of identify the stress in their bucket, thinking about what we can maybe do to address some of that stress, and trying to come up with a bit of a coordinated response in terms of, is there anything form tutor could do to maybe address some stress at school, in terms of if there's like homework worries, or if there's things maybe going on at school that maybe school would be a better place to deal with, or if there's things that you can get some support from family members to help address as well. So it's really just thinking about who you can bring in, what you can do, how we can address some of those stresses flowing into their bucket to reduce the initial stress in the first place, so that it's not overflowing. And it's really helpful to think about the urges to self-harm as a bit of a wave. So it's thinking about how the wave can feel really strong at times, just like the urge can. So it starts off with the initial trigger. So it could be triggered by a person, a place, a thought, a feeling, or something else entirely. Then the urge maybe becomes more intense, and that's when the wave maybe starts to rise. And this can happen fairly gradually, or it can happen very suddenly and feel quite intense, and that's when the urge maybe gets to the most intense point and it's at that peak, and it might feel as if the urge will never go away and that it will always be there. But we know that eventually the urge loses that intensity and it will eventually fade away. So it's thinking about that urge as a wave. So thinking about what's going to help us to ride that wave and wait until the urge fades and passes. And it's really important to let young people know that these waves will pass, because even though when we're at that peak, it doesn't feel like it's ever going to fade away, but we know that eventually it will. And with different strategies that can help us to ride each wave. So thinking about what's going to help us to go with that wave and ride each wave is we're going to try and feel calm and distracted. We want to try and relieve some of those bigger feelings, those more intense feelings, trying to gain some control back over those urges and feelings and to process those thoughts and emotions. So we're going to think about some different ways to help with those different functions over the next few slides as well.
So as Alice just mentioned there, the first kind of minutes in terms of thinking about that wave, the first minute of feeling those urges really are important. So we have to think about different things or strategies we can bring into place. So there's a list here of some ideas. For instance, setting a 1 minute time and watching the time pass. Listen to your favorite song from beginning to end. Count all the things, all the green things you can see, so a bit more grounding techniques. So there's some of the kind of strategies that we would say within the first minute matter. What I have advised parents to carers to think about is if they have means to self-harm that they might have, I don't know, might have hidden in a room or whatever, then work with that young person to maybe, if it is a razor blade, to get a box and wrap that up with really thick tape. So actually within that first minute, they'll struggle to get into that, and hopefully, and usually that urge reduces over that time, and there'll be less harm kind of intentionally made to themselves. I mean, we will go on in a minute to speak about self-soothing boxes, but there's a really useful video which goes through the tip technique, which will now play.
I'll just stop sharing the screen and get the video up again. Okay. So we'll just play the video for you now, and this is looking at the tip technique.
The tip technique. Tolerating times where you feel completely overwhelmed by your emotions can be tough. When we feel a strong wave of emotion coming over us, such as fear or anger, our ability to think clearly is diminished, and we often make unwise decisions or do things we might regret later. Tip skills are designed to work quickly to bring down emotional arousal. Often, if we can just tolerate the first few seconds or minutes of our distress, then we'll find ourselves in a much better position to make decisions about how to handle the situation. T. Temperature. If it's safe to do so, placing your whole face in cold water can trigger the dive reflex, which will bring down your heart rate. You can also trigger this by splashing cold water on your face and holding your breath. Raising your body temperature increases your blood pressure and can be comforting when you're feeling sad. Try holding a hot water bottle or taking a hot bath. I. Intense exercise. Getting your heart rate up can decrease anxiety and increase positive emotions. 20 minutes of intense exercise is enough to do this, and is helpful if you're feeling angry, agitated, or finding that unhelpful thoughts are going round and round in your head. P. Paced breathing. Slow, controlled breathing, where your exhale is longer than your inhale, will decrease your heart rate and send a message to your brain that you're calm and safe. Try breathing in through your nose for 4 seconds and breathing out through your mouth for 6 seconds for a couple of minutes. P. Progressive muscle relaxation. Our muscles tense up when we're feeling intense emotion. Work through your body, becoming aware of each muscle from the top of your head to your toes and deliberately tightening them, then relaxing each one. Remember, Tip skills provide a quick way to reduce intense, overwhelming emotions. However, the emotions happen for a reason. Once you've brought the emotion down, take some time to deal with the situation which caused the emotion in the first place.
Okay, stop sharing that now, and I'll share the presentation again. Let's get to the current slide. So so that was looking at the tip techniques, so looking at different ways that we can reduce those intense emotions, and these are also some suggestions for ways to find alternative coping strategies as well to help self-soothe, like we talked about in terms of creating a self-soothe box. There's a really useful guide on this slide that's been created by Young Minds on ways to create a self-soothe box, so you can put different things in there to help soothe the different senses. So it could be a favourite smell, something that feels quite nice to touch, something soft, or a fidget toy, some favourite photos, a favourite sweet treat, some colouring books and mindfulness, different things that might be helpful in soothing each of the senses and thinking about what's going to be helpful for them personally, and building that together, or helping them to build it individually as well. So that's one way of looking at different alternative coping strategies. Ways to keep calm can include practicing mindfulness, using relaxation techniques, using those deep breathing exercises, grounding exercises, so trying to be present in that moment, so noticing what's around us, noticing what kind of things we can see, smell, hear, touch, taste, those kind of things, maybe listening to music, doing a bit of a sense check like I just said, and those are some ways that we can help to stay calm. Trying to find ways to manage big feelings, so it could be jumping about, could be maybe thumping a pillow or doing some exercise like it said in the video, and I know that young people that are able to maybe go outside in the garden or outside to a park, having a bit of a run around there, it can be really helpful as well. And finding ways to regain control or distract, like we said, in terms of riding that wave and passing the urge, is maybe doing some puzzles, because that can be really helpful in terms of like focusing attention on something that can be quite simple to do, maybe colouring, tidying their room, sorting, organising. So things that are going to help them to feel like they're in control of what they're doing and distract them from maybe some of those distressing emotions. And some of the ways to process emotions could be either like writing a letter, writing a journal, maybe helping them to map out what it is they're feeling and what kind of things might be happening to contribute to that stress. So it can be really helpful in terms of processing emotions, to just get it out on the page, so that it's not all in their mind as well and feeling really busy. So those are some ways that we can look at alternative coping strategies as well.
And thinking also about what Alice has just been speaking about in relation to strategies, these are some posters that I downloaded images from the National Self-Harm Network, which we will give you the link at the end. But these I've given to schools in the past to show young people. So red marker pen, use that on their skin, a hot water bottle, as it said in the tip techniques, in terms of increase in temperature can help. There's rubber bands, this is a scar, there's ice that they can hold in their hands tightly, and also the toothbrush might give the same kind of effects as the superficial or cutting that they may do intentionally. So there's some ideas there.